We are now going to get this caliper off. And so now you can see more clearly how the pad, the inside pad and the outside pad have worn completely unevenly, and that's because Howdy guys, Ram Johnson here, and today on AutoEdits I'm going to give you kind of a mechanical heads up on something I just discovered on the truck here. Now if you guys watch the channel at all, you'll know that I just did the big brake upgrade on the Jeep back there, and then it was finally time to get the truck back into the mix, catch up on some maintenance on it, and I want to pay attention to one thing and bring it to your guys' attention actually, one thing important that I discovered as I was working on the truck. Let me tell you about what's been going on with this thing for the last several months. So this year the truck saw a couple of big epic road trips earlier in the year, and then lots of miles. You know, I did the trip to Baja, tons of mud, lots of deep, muddy, sandy stuff. The overlanding trip through Arizona. But what really just put a ton of miles onto this vehicle was my wife's vehicle actually died. She had a 2013 Turbo Beetle, and that thing died. And so this became her workhorse vehicle, which was just a daily grind commute, like 80 to 100 miles a day here in LA, 405 traffic into the city. She was a trooper that she just kind of toughed it out until we figured out what we wanted to do for a vehicle and just put a ton of miles on this thing, and this thing did fantastic. I am just so impressed with how this truck has just done all I've wanted to do. So once we figured out the wife's car situation, we sold the Bug and got her a brand new car. Some of you, if you follow me on social media, Instagram, AutoEdits Jason, you'll know what that is. I'm debating on whether or not we should do more videos or do videos on that because we'll see. We're spread out pretty thin on the channel right now. So she got a new car, this came back into my mix, and I'm starting to catch up to some of the maintenance. Now looking back at it, the first indicator that there was a brake issue with the truck was that the fact that this wheel was absolutely coated with brake dust. Now one of the highlights that I keep touting of you guys from the PowerStop Z36 pads that I have on basically on both these vehicles, on both the truck and the Jeep, one of the big things about them is that they don't do that. So I should have known that that was an indicator of a problem the moment I saw that, and that was happening while my wife was driving it in bumper to bumper traffic. I just kind of figured it was her driving style. Maybe she was left foot braking. Stupid me for assuming that, because she wasn't. She was just being awesome. There was the issue that I'm going to show you. So that was an indicator. Didn't pay attention to it at the time. Now I have since cleaned the wheel because that's just how I roll. And I'll show you how I actually did that. It was actually kind of a cool little, I found another product crossover discovery. So let's get this wheel off and get to the root of the problem. All right, so as I got the wheel off to do a thorough cleaning and do some inspecting inside here, just double checking some of the stuff, which you should do if you have an off-road rig, for sure an off-road rig, but even your normal driving car. It's a good thing to just learn and just kind of look at your stuff and check on your junk every once in a while. So it's been 2 years since I put the Z36 pads, rotors, and red powder coat calipers on the truck, and it has been a standout upgrade to this thing. Has just made it absolutely pleasant to drive because it just stops like a car. It's really it has been a fantastic kit and a fantastic upgrade. So as I was looking and doing my inspection, I even looked at the outside pad because that's the easy pad to see. It looked fine, you know, 2 years. I think this set has about 28,000 miles on it. I'll give you a full detailed shot here in a second. And that's when I thought, okay, I got to go farther because this just isn't normal. So what I'll do now is just pull the caliper off to give you guys a shot down in here at the brake pads. To keep the rotor in place, kind of like I did on the Jeep, you do a similar thing here, and you just kind of, on this one, since the lugs are so deep, I have to use some nuts as spacers, giggle. And so I'll just use the lug nuts to hold the rotor in place while we do our work. So what has happened here is, since I went through all of that bad mud and rain and torrential, just lots of water, what happens is, and I actually went back and watched my old install video when I did these, because I was doing the video, I was distracted. I didn't grease the slider bolt here. That's a no-no. They come pre-greased with a little bit, so I just kind of saw that and just went ahead with it. Now, I've had this happen on stock calipers. The stock calipers in this truck years ago, back when this was my work truck, did it. The stock calipers in the Jeep did it once. It's something that if you drive in rough conditions, it's something to double check on, because once the grease gets worn out in here, these sliding pins are designed to help this caliper float. That's why they call it a floating caliper. So they bound up, it wore out the inside pad. Glad we caught it before it was a metal on metal. Like, I'm gonna get those out and I'll show you. It's literally so close to metal on metal, probably 1 or 2 regular drives, and it would have been a real bummer. Okay, so we are now gonna get this caliper off. And I got a little cord here to help keep this out of our way. And so now you can see more clearly how the pad, the inside pad and the outside pad have worn completely unevenly, and that's because the caliper had slid into place and locked and twisted and locked into place. Now when I pull these off, these will definitely, yeah, that's pretty dry. And this one is, it's not terrible, but there's actually water inside there. So there's some grease, but there's some water. So it's one of those things that, you know, it's a reminder to all of us who wheel and use our vehicles to pay attention to these little things that kind of have a tendency to get overlooked. And this is exactly one of those instances where I overlooked this for a long time, and this truck had just been doing such a good job, I didn't pay attention to all of this stuff. And luckily, caught this right here. This is literally, I can say, like, look at that pad there. I mean, that is literally a thin piece of cardboard or a thick piece of paper away from metal on the rotor, and that would have been a real bummer because that would have ruined this rotor. But as it is, the beauty of finding this right now is the fact that, you know what I did? I went online and I ordered another set of Z36 pads to just go right in here. These rotors are completely within spec, 28,000 miles. You can actually get a really good look at this pad right here. For 28,000 miles, that's a lot of meat left on there. I am very happy with the way these are wearing. All right, so I got the boot off of this one, and you can see the grease in here is black, dirty, and the consistency is very thin. It's been mixed with water, and that is definitely our culprit of why this bound up in there. You know, I can't help but just feel lucky that I caught that right at that moment, but before it became a bigger deal, when you would have heard that metal on metal grind that makes you cringe. You don't ever want to hear that when you're driving your rig around. So do a quick cleanup. This is a quick repair for me. I just want to get this thing back on the road. So we'll just get everything cleaned up. So now that we have everything clean and fresh, we have our fresh brake pads ready to go. What I'm gonna do now is take this is just a high quality synthetic grease, and I'm going to go ahead and grease these things. If you guys just watch the Jeep video, you'll have watched me just do this to the sliders for that. So that is something, again, to pay attention to. And it doesn't take much. This is not like something where you overdo it by putting a ton of product or material in there. I'm actually going to put a little bit inside the boot here, just so it has that to draw on. And place our boot back on and push both seals on like that. We'll get our other boot, put a little dab inside the boot just because. Make sure both flanges of the boot are seated. Now, if I were, probably should replace these boots, but I think they look like they're in decent shape. you can only expect so much from them. When you order the pads from PowerStop, I'll put a link on my Amazon storefront to this stuff. These come really fast, and the general rule is you could get away with 2 sets of pads per rotor, one set of rotors. So that's something just to kind of keep in mind. Like, that's why I'm doing this with confidence, and I'm not worried about the rotor. I just pure luck caught this thing with a paper's width left before it actually caused damage. I felt the rotor. Rotor feels really good. So the kit comes with new sliders, the stainless steel sliders, and a new bit of grease that is for the actual caliper bracket side. So then you take your new pads and you insert new stainless sliders in there. Those go in like this, and those will just kind of slot into place here. These just offer a tiny bit of spring to the pads to try to just kind of kick them back off the rotor there. There we have it. Now here's a tip to make this assembly a little bit better. You're going to need the space inside your caliper here. So I just use this C-clamp here, but they make little tools, but a big C-clamp, and you just use one of the old brake pads and just push the piston all the way back in. Since you now have much more material here to squeeze, you gotta make some room for that. And here's another tip at this moment. If you had already added brake fluid up there, be careful when you're pushing your pistons back in, because that fluid is now pushing back into there, and this is where that will now overflow, because you're like added more brake fluid going, why is that down at minimum? See, one of those things just to learn. So keep your eye on that. So now make some room. These should just go right into place. And then these bolts, I'm using a little bit of the new orange Loctite on these. I always like to Loctite these as well. So torque these down. 26 foot-pounds on that one. That's it. And now you can actually see this thing floats so much easier now. I can actually just really feel the difference. So that's what you want, that's what you're going for, and that's how we ran into a problem before. That just got bound up, stayed pressed together like that, wore out the inside pads. Not a catastrophe, but crisis averted. So both pads are installed, everything is looking pretty good. Got the truck sitting back down on the ground. And then what you do now is I just gently pump the brake a few times, not all the way to the floor, just gently and slowly move those pistons back out to where everything just grabs, and you shouldn't need to bleed. Everything should have stayed sealed, and I did. And then I can look here just to make sure it's right below the max line on this. So I'm good to go. Time to go drive, break these things in. All right, so here is a quick tip. Now these were bad, this particular wheel was really bad. So I used this stuff. This was the Turtle Wax F21 wheel cleaner, and it was, again, one of those on sale purchases down at my local Pet Boys, and it seems to work pretty good. So I'm on fire on that stuff right now. And then here's the fun little discovery. This is the Lucas Oil Slick Mist Speed Wax. I've shown you guys this stuff in a few videos now because I really like it. It smells really good, like all of those products. But what I found is after I hit the wheel cleaner, I came through with the Speed Wax in here and was wowed by how easy it was to make these things go from that kind of hazy look after you do a really deep clean on them and scrub the crud out of them. And this stuff really makes this aluminum look good. I was just shocked and surprised, pleasantly surprised. I love it when products overlap from one thing to another. So not just on paint, on these unfinished aluminum wheels, they look pretty darn great. And you know, again, overlap. I love overlap. This is cool. All right, gonna drive this thing. Get these pads broken in, seated to the rotors. All right, windows down for Pintos. right, so we lost the light pretty fast there, but I just did want to share with you guys the test drive afterwards and having the victory lap, so to speak. And truck is freaking back to awesomeness. This thing, the brakes just actually, the kit that I put on 2 years ago literally is one of those upgrades. I say it, watch that video again. It's a good video because I actually take it out into the hills and hot dog the truck, and it's a fun one. This is one of those maintenance items that you could catch up on before it becomes a catastrophe. Like, what the next thing that would have happened is that last bit of material, brake pad material, would have worn off, and it would have been just backing plate versus rotor. That chews up rotors. It's no good. It gets more expensive. It's just bad. So it's not safe, obviously. So it's great to catch it now, like right before. So it's something to pay attention to. Give an eyeball on your pads every once in a while. And I'm happy to have shown you how easy it is to just remedy that by just ordering up a new set of pads. Go to my Amazon store, the AutoEdits storefront, and I have all of that stuff there. It really helps me out if you do order a few things, even if it's not just that from my Amazon store. So please do that for the support. Now, I've already done the seat-in process, the break-in process, and that's a series of stops from certain mile per hour down to like 40 to 15, and then from 35 to 10 or 5. So just read the instructions, the PowerStop instructions. It'll help you with that stuff. And I'm now in just kind of the drive around phase afterwards, and the truck feels right back to awesome. There's Pinto. I know it's getting dark out. She definitely doesn't like the break-in procedure. She gets jostled around quite a bit. There you go, successful video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe. Follow me over on AutoEdits Jason on Instagram. And until next time, enjoy your drive.